Chapter 8: The flow of food preparation. Exam case. The denser the food, the more slowly it will cool. What is the first step in cooling a large pot of hot meat sauce? When the item contains a potential allergen. When partially cooking food, the initial cooking phase should not last longer than. What guidelines should be followed when using additives during food preparation? Additives must be approved by the regulatory authority. Up to 165F, 74C. A food handler is cooling chicken soup for dinner service. After 2 hours, the soup's temperature has decreased from 135F to 80F. What should a food handler do next? When slacking food during preparation, the food should never go above what temperature? 41F. A food handler removes a frozen lasagna from the freezer and leaves it on a prep table to that overnight. Why is this method unsafe? The dish is exposed to the temperature danger zone so pathogens can grow. What is the required minimum internal cooking temperature for seafood? 145F or higher for 15 seconds. The two biggest hazards when prepping food are cross-contamination and time temperature abuse. What is the required minimum internal cooking temperature for rice that will be hot held for rice that be hot held for service? 135F. Pour the meat sauce into several smaller containers. When reheating turkey chili for hot holding, what is the minimum temperature that the chili must reach? 60 minutes. What temperature must partially cooked food reach when it is reheated? What is the required minimum internal cooking temperature for poultry? 165F or higher for 1 second. How should pooled eggs be handled to keep them safe? Store them at an air temperature of 45F or lower. What should be done if the menu includes TCS items that are raw or undercooked? It must be noted on the menu item. Reheat the soup and cool it again. Food being cooled must pass quickly through which temperature range to reduce pathogen growth? What is the required minimum cooking temperature for pork roast? 145F or higher for 4 minutes. What must be immediately done to food after it is thawed in a microwave? Cook it. Grilled cheese. What do some regulatory authorities require food service operation when applying for a variance? 125F to 70F. What is the maximum cooling for TCS food? 165F for 15 seconds. What temperature must commercially processed and packaged ready-to-eat food be reheated to? Food that has become unsafe should be thrown out unless ITI has been approved by the regulatory authority. Why are overloading fryer baskets a food safety risk? It reduces oil temperature resulting in undercooked food. 155F for 15 seconds. What temperature must TCS food for immediate service be reheated to? When preparing protein salads such as tuna or egg salad, never use leftover TCS ingredients that have held longer than 3 days. A food handler took out a hotel pan of tuna salad to make 2 dozen tuna sandwiches. What error was made? There was no error. Which method is a safe way to thaw food? Under running water at 125F or higher. What temperature must meat be cooked to if it will be cooked in a microwave? 165F, 74C. What is the required minimum internal cooking temperature for poultry? 165 F or high for 1 second. If an operation uses or reduces oxygen packaging method for fish, the fish must be. Which item would be safe to offer in a children's menu? Which practice requires a variance? Packaging food using a reduced oxygen method. A crisis management plan. When must a consumer advisory be provided for menu items containing TCS food? 4 hours. How does the density of food affect cooling? What guidelines should be followed when handling ice to keep it safe? Never use ice as an ingredient if it was used to cool food. Eggs were placed in a covered dish and cooked in a microwave oven. Halfway through cooking, the eggs were stirred and once finished were left to stand for 30 seconds before being checked with a thermometer in 2 places. What mistake was made? They were left to stand for 30 seconds after cooking.